Welcome to Speaking of Spirituality, a podcast to share about the path of spiritual awakening. I'm your host, Amelia McLean, and I am so excited to be showcasing some inspiring stories and exploring some interesting topics, all under the umbrella of spirituality. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So I'd love to start with you telling me what spiritual awakening means to you.
Spiritual awakening. Yeah. I feel like that's such a broad term and so overused, widely used. I would say that people come to an understanding about themselves and the world we live in or don't live in or live parallel to and all of the above, um, through so many different ways, different experiences and paths and healings and understandings. I always say this, that some people, reach that awakening through politics, and then other people reach it through spirituality, and then they learn about, politics in a different way. I do feel like, or not even politics, but conspiracy theories and like all the stuff that you can rabbit hole down. Um, and they all reach it in different, from different paths and different ways. And so I think ultimately it's an awakening of your higher self. What I feel like, once that happened in myself, I was like, okay, this is my awakening. This is my spiritual awakening, like reaching the level where I can communicate and understand and feel my higher self, was ultimately where I feel the most resonant with that term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Beautiful. Yes. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So your higher self connection and that part of you coming through, you feel
Yeah,
like that was like the awakening for you.
totally. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So tell me more about your spiritual awakening story. I know a little tiny bit, but like walk me through like where were you at before your what you feel like is your spiritual awakening, and then how did it unfold to where you're at now?
Cool. Yeah, so gosh, I've known you for a while now. I don't know what I've shared with you, but I have been thinking about this actually even more recently. I just went home and visited family, and I used to go to school, to this little private school, literally like a block and a half away from my parents' house. And so every time I drove by it, I was like, wow, I remember this moment, sitting in the grass, and I had to have been about 14, maybe 15, somewhere around there. And I was in a bad place, probably one of the lowest of my life. And I was forced to go to this Christian school, even though we were raised Catholic, and everyone was in chapel. And I said I had to go to the bathroom, and I just left and was just sitting in the grass, just crying by myself, just out in the middle of, and it's open, and like there was no privacy. I was just out there. The grass was so tall, it was like around me. So I kind of felt hidden and safe in this grass. And I was arguing with God, like arguing, like having a full-on conversation. I could feel God talking back to me. I was just really trying to come to an understanding of what that meant to me. Um, it was so funny back then. People would say, oh, you have to pray all like this way or that way. And I remember saying, no, I'm gonna be like, look, Jesus, this is what's happening, okay? Life sucks right now. Just being hella me, right? Like just me all the way. Cause I was like, I need to be me when I'm talking to my God. Like no matter who that is, it's different for everyone. And I was sitting in this grass and like literally having this down conversation. And I just had the most incredible realization. And I'll never forget, that moment and how it felt in my body and in my soul and my mind. Just this understanding. And it feels so random and kind of even lame to say, but at the moment it was everything. Like it literally saved my life. I realized, looking up at the clouds, that the clouds were me. I moved like those clouds. The grass was me. Like I'm the grass and the grass is me, and we're all God. and God is the grass, and grass is God, and the grass is me, and I'm God, and so it was just like this full circle realization that was like, I still get goosebumps every time I
Yeah.
think about
I felt
it.
that.
It was wild, and it saved my life because I wouldn't have, if I didn't have something to shake me right then, I wasn't gonna make it past that night. And so I needed that. And it was just a little glimmer of what I was gonna experience. It was almost like God, the universe, whatever anyone wants to call it, was just like, hold on, baby. Just keep holding on, baby. Like, I know you want to know. Hold on. Like, you're almost there. And so I was really young at that age and still had like a pretty rough road ahead. And then, um, oh gosh, I'd have to say, um, I guess I was like, since then I was always like known as my from my friends and my family, like kind of to be a little bit out there. I was always like, oh, the earth and the universe, and I was always like that hippie chick, you know. Growing up in the city, that was a little more rare, much more rare than it is here in Humboldt County. And but I would say when it really, I guess when I really fully came online was 2012. And I've been thinking about this a lot too, because I was just hanging out with my cousin and New Year's Eve, 2012, the minute turned 2012, like something literally like rolled up my spine. It was just full body goosebumps. And I was like, holy shit, like this is gonna be a year. Like this is it. And I had that same feeling this year. So, and it's the first time I've had that feeling since then. So I'm super excited for this year. um, Needless to say, I met my daughter's dad and had my daughter all in 1 year. And it was obviously the most life-changing year of my life. The best thing in the world happened to me. I became a mom. And she was born December 7th, right before, it was supposed to be, what was it, 12/21/12, or was it 12/12/12? No, it was 12/21. It was supposed to be like the Mayan calendar thing, and like I was like super curious about it. And I was like, dang man, I just got this little bitty baby in my arms. Like, what are we supposed to do if this actually goes down? And so it was just one of those moments. And that I felt like that month I gave birth, that last year, that last month of 2012, um, it was a, traumatic birth. And I had so many understandings just from that experience, that it just sparked everything in me. And then it was like I couldn't learn what I wanted to learn fast enough. I was rabbit holing every chance I could. I was up breastfeeding at like 2 a.m. in the morning by myself, like rabbit holing, because it was just like I just yearned for understanding, like what is happening and why and how and why now. And so that's how it kind of started. And then I committed to meditating every day. And it was so hard just being a single mom and like trying to like work and do all the things, but I was so committed because um from the get, I could always remember that first experience that I had just sitting in the grass talking to the clouds and God and the grass. And I will never forget that. That was what kind of spurred me. I was like, I want to feel that again. I want to get to that feeling again. I want to know that knowing again. And so every time I meditated, that would be my kind of my goal, I guess. It was just always in the back of my head, like, I can have this. This was a reality. Um, and so I meditated and meditated and meditated. And I started with like 2 minutes a day, and then 5 minutes a day, and then 20 minutes a day, and then 30 minutes a day, and then an hour a day, and then 2 hours a day. And then sometimes I get, when there was times where like my kid would go to school and I got off early, I would go home and just meditate as long as I possibly could, because I was reaching understanding inside of myself better than I could outside of myself. And so I was thirsty. I was thirsty for it. So I kept going, and here we are now, and fully online and connected with my higher self and loving every minute of it. Sorry, not the whole journey hasn't been love, loving every minute of it, but I love where I'm at now, and I love my connection to my higher self and my team and everything. So yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so beautiful. I love that. And
Mhm.
so tell me more about how your meditation led into the work that you're doing, because I've heard you talk specifically about that before when we did that other interview about your specifically about your work. So yeah, talk about that, and because that was what you talked about then. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Okay, yeah. So how meditation led to the line of work I do. Okay, so I've been doing massage. Actually, it'll be 20 years tomorrow. Um, so actually more than half my life at this point. And so I started really young. I started right out of high school. I guess that was also a big part of my awakening journey. Right out of high school, I was like, I want to have a trade. And I had always been really good at massage. I had brothers that were getting hurt all the time, and my mom was sick with fibromyalgia. It just kind of became something I just kind of did at a really young age. And so I was already good at it when I was 18. So I went to school. That's where actually how I learned how to meditate, and how I learned to connect. His was a holistic massage institute, and also how I learned how to connect with I don't know about otherworldly beings, but I learned Reiki there and that kind of thing. I learned how to connect. I'll just say that. Um I sorry, my daughter is asking for something. Um and so I learned at age 18, pretty young, how to do that kind of stuff. And I was scared to death of it at that age. I was still traumatized and broken and healing, and um it was terrifying. I was like, no, I ain't going near that. Like, no, thank you. And so I dropped it. I never actually really did Reiki ever again after that. So I've been a Reiki master for 20 years, never really messed with it. And so, but it always like this, there was always like a curiosity of like this energetic part of it. And I knew, I vaguely knew that I could feel things and see, like, understand. It was more like a knowing. And I could feel auras, almost like a vibration is how I used to explain it, more than like I couldn't see a color, but like a color would vibrate at a certain frequency, and then I could and I knew it was, I just knew it was green by the vibration it was putting off or whatever. And so as I was meditating, these would start to happen more often, more and more often, and I'd be like, man, what is that? Like, what am I feeling? And it wasn't like clairvoyance or clairaudience, like it wasn't anything super clear of what I from what I knew outside of myself. So I just kept trying to go within, and I would have these epic astral meditations where I'm like kicking it with the homies up in Venus, having like baths and like liquid light and shit. It was crazy. Like, it was insane, out of this world. And I never really talked to anybody about it because I knew it sounded crazy, but I knew it was happening. Like, I would be there and I could smell, the rock, that the liquid light was pouring off. I mean, it was so vivid and real. So I knew it was happening. I just didn't know how and what was happening. um and I knew I made clear that it wasn't me losing my mind. That was put on me at a young age, that like everything I was experiencing at a really young age was me being crazy, which is understandable. Like, we were all pretty messed up kids, um and so they thought we were messed up in way worse ways, but it was really my gift that they were like shutting down. So when I did start meditating, I had already like had my hand in some pots and like had some kind of basic understanding. Even when it came to like Reiki, I understood what was happening and energetically. Um, and so when I started meditating and was experiencing the colors and like these beings and stuff, I didn't know how to like put words to it, and I didn't really want to share it with anybody, but I just kept growing it. I was just playing with it and allowing myself to experience it without judgment. And at that time, it was really hard. Um, really, really hard, really challenging, especially to not have anyone to share it with. And then I started doing massage again when my daughter was probably about 2 years old, I want to say. And so I had been kind of out of the game when I got pregnant. I got carpal tunnel, and so I was like, all right, I'm just not gonna do that for a while. So when I got started again, I I would feel the presence of these beings that I was meditating with in my own private time, like during my sessions with other people. And that started making me feel uncomfortable. So I was like, nah, we ain't doing that. Because then I don't know, it was so much unknown. It was really uncomfortable. It didn't feel safe. And so it took like probably about another year or so of like asking these beings who I'm with, like what's actually happening. And it, over time kind of came out like that I'm able to basically translate the messages of these beings and their messages to English, um to my clients who were needing of these messages. And I was like, nah, like, no, I ain't the one. Nope. Sorry, you're tripping. You got the wrong girl. Like, I was full on denial. I was like, no, this is like my thing. Like, I get this. This is something I get to have. It's like, the one time I don't have my kid, I'm meditating. That's my time. That's me getting to bliss out for a minute with my peoples in Venus and like the whole thing, right? And so I was definitely in denial and fought it for a long time, but it just kept getting stronger and stronger. And then I'll never forget, I told my team one day, like, all right, if we're gonna do this, like it needs to be like ripping off a band-aid. Like, when people take blood and they're like 1, 2, 3, I always tell them, don't do that shit. Like just do it. Don't count to me, okay? Because then I'm gonna, flinch. So just pop it in there and get it over with. It's like that's way better to me. And so I told my team, that's how I want it to be done. I want you to just rip it off. Don't do none of this slow stuff. Like if we're going all in, we're going all in. And so we did. Um, and that very first session is burned into my brain forever. And it was I was working in this kind of uppity area of the Bay Area. It was a definitely a wealthy area. And I had this all my clients were, just like would complain if my nails weren't painted well or if they were chipping, like that kind of stuff. Talked about, my clothes, and just all it's a very uppity, and so and that's part of what my fear was. It was like, oh, what am I gonna say to these people, like in my way of talking? Like, what I got to say to them? And so it was just divine how it all happened. This real estate agent came in, and I had been seeing her for a good while at that point, and I'd never really gotten any messages with her that I remembered before this point. And then it was just one day she came in and had a session, and they brought all this information through, and it was just so rapid. It was just like all the way through my being, and it was almost like I couldn't stop it. So thank God I said to do it like that, like just rip it off like a band-aid, because I sometimes when I'm channeling, it depends on what aspect of the higher self or I'm working with, but like a lot of times it'll be super rapid, like just so fast. And I almost can't like, I'm like fumbling on my words trying to keep up. And that was that kind of pace. It was just, and this lady was just stunned and quiet the whole time. And I thought, like leaving that session, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, what just happened? Like, what did I just do? Like, I just lost a client. Like, I don't even know. She's gonna think I'm crazy. And um she came out bawling, like bawling out of the room, and everyone was like, oh my God, I worked at a wellness center, and everyone was like, are you okay? And it was just like this whole thing. Um and she I remember like her kind of taking me aside and saying, I don't know what just happened. And I said, neither do I. And but she was like, your messages were spot on. And we just kind of ended it super briefly, and I was like, take your time to process, like no need to like chat right now. And she called me the next day, and it was this pretty extreme scenario where she found out something about her. I can't even remember if it was her husband or her fiance. I'm pretty sure it was her husband, or she was about to marry him or something. Um, that could have really, really hurt her. I'll just keep it pretty vague. Like it really could have hurt her. and maybe even like health wise, like taken her life eventually. Like it was something really, really serious that um she wouldn't have found out if it weren't for our session.
Oh,
And I don't know. It just it was stunning. It like I mean obviously shook me for the to my core, and I was like, "What?" Like I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to do, and then it just kept coming like that. It was just like maybe a week later I did it again, and a week later I did it again, and a week later, it was gradual enough. But it was still wild and just out of this world. And so that's kind of what led me to now what I do. And it's just been this progression. It's been, I mean, my daughter's so 8 years, at least 8 years that I've been doing this now. And it's just so even what I do now is so different. Back then it was more like um it was almost like they would come into my body, and it was exhausting, and sometimes it would like hurt afterwards. Um because I think they're just so high frequency, and my body was not, um that it was uncomfortable, and just it would wipe me out for like a whole day after. I would just be like donezo. Um and now I guess what I've come to understand, and even just like my relationship with the beings coming through, like what I understand now is that the beings that I'm talking to are simply aspects of this person's higher self. So like Archangel Michael is a huge part of my team, but he's a huge part of a lot of people's team. And so I kept being like, why am I with Archangel Michael so much? Why do I spend so much time with him? Like, what's the deal? And sometimes he'll come up really fierce and not harsh. Well, yeah, harsh. We'll go with harsh. Um, and then other times he'll come in with really loving, cuddling energy, very comforting energy. And so I kind of dove into that, and it opened me into this like understanding of how, he is just an aspect of my higher self. He's an aspect of these other people's higher selves just as much as we are aspects of his higher self. So that's how I can tap into these different aspects of Archangel Michael because of all these differences, I guess. um and so now what I understand is that I channel. Before I was like, oh, I'm channeling all these beings, but now I understand I'm just channeling aspects of this higher self that I'm working with. And there's and then it goes into, there's so many things, right? Like if you start to look at orishas and stuff, there's an orisha that who closely resembles or is, depending on who you ask, Archangel Michael in the orisha beliefs system. And so and so I've just gotten down all these rabbit holes, and like really what it came down to, and what I got clarity on probably about a year and a half ago. It was pretty recently that I realized like these are just aspects of this person's higher self. Like if that Archangel Michael doesn't come through, then either he's not an aspect of their higher self, or he's not bringing through the message that they need to hear today. um so it's just been this like amazing epic journey of being able to take my own pain and healing and commitment to meditating and connecting with my higher self, and it's turned into this gift that I'm able to tap into for myself still, and help others to tap into. um and so it's been beautiful and amazing.
ah, I love it so much, and I love the work that you do, and I always love telling people about it, and I love hearing you talk about it, and I just every session that I've ever had with you is just it's just so mind blowing. You know me, I always come in with a big list of questions. Let's do this. Let's get this information. Oh my God, I love it.
And that's what's so cool too, I think, is like even people, like some people come with absolutely no questions, especially when it's their first time. And I used to like, I mean, this gift has progressed. I used to never do it with somebody I've never met before. Like I had all these like, it was more just to make myself feel safe and like feel comfortable diving into somebody's energy and making sure that it was going to be beneficial and stuff. But now I'm just like, they wouldn't be brought to me. They wouldn't be led to me like if it wasn't meant for them, and if they don't have messages, then they won't come through. Or if they're guarded, the messages are like it's like pulling teeth. And so it's just that it's so fascinating with every single person because like you come in with a list, but even your first couple times, like you didn't have a list, you were just like, let's go, like bring it on. I think it's so beautiful how different every single session is, like just from the way that their energies come through, the way that this client is receiving it, and then if after they've had a few, how they change in receiving it. It's beautiful. I love it so much.
Yes. And I just remembered that the first couple sessions that I had, I was pregnant. And so you weren't only connecting with my spirit team and my higher self, but also with my
That's right.
baby. And that was like,
That
it
was a
was like
first. Yeah.
so mind blowing. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And that was I it was you and one other client, because even with babies, like I didn't feel comfortable because I was like, I don't feel like the soul's grounded enough. Like I don't know how to do this. It was just, and it's just all my own fears were getting in the way. Like, am I doing it right? And are they going to be okay? And um, but it was yours and one other woman's unborn baby that were just, I mean, shoving their way through. Like, oh no, we coming, we here, let's go. Like, so and there was no denying it at that point. I was just like, okay, yeah, I guess this is what we're doing.
Yeah. I remember you said that with my first session that my baby's spirit came to you in the morning. Like they knew it was going to happen that day, and that they were already trying to be like communicating through you in the morning when you woke up. You're like, whoa, 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 hold on.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
Ah,
That's another cool part is that um I've gotten really good because of how invasive it felt when I first started. I've gotten really good at being able to set a really strong boundaries. And so I don't remember a lot of what's said in the session. I always say it's like I feel like I'm in the passenger seat. So if you ask me how to get there again, I wouldn't remember because I wasn't driving. So sometimes people will start talking and I'll be like, "Oh yeah," but it's not. It's something I release after each and every session because I'm like, if it's not meant for me or it's not going to benefit me to hang on to, I release it and I let it go and I do this huge cleanse after. And so it's always so cool to like hear things come back. I always tell my clients, hey, let me know if something I said resonated, or 6 months down the line, I've had people text me like, oh my gosh, I finally figured out what that name was. It was my great grandmother's nickname, like, crazy stuff. And so it's that's why I'm like, I could never get bored with what I do. It's so much fun.
well, I remember one of the things that in the first session that I was so like, because whenever you say these things are or whatever gonna happen and they're gonna play out this way, I'm like my brain's trying to figure out like what does that mean? Like how what are you talking about? But you can't know until it actually happens and I know what it was now. And like I don't know, it's just so cool. But yeah. How do the messages come through for you? Like, can you explain more about like are you like you said something about seeing visuals like yeah, talk more about that, like the actual channeling that you're doing, like it comes in all the different forms, like you hear things and you see things and you have like words or like yeah, how does that work?
Yeah. Yeah, I always say it's kind of like, oh, it's almost like watching a movie. Because you can, sometimes you'll hear music and you'll know what's going to happen before it even starts to happen because of the music that you hear. And so it's more of like this vibration that comes in and I'm like, oh, I can kind of feel what is going to happen with this energy coming through. And so there's always just like a preparatory energy of how, like, if I know it's going to be like a heavy energy where the client's going to be crying, and some things are going to be brought up that are touchy. Those are hard sessions for me. But I also love them like just as much as the others because they're just so blast you wide open kind of thing. Um, so I always go in with a prayer kind of calling in sacred beings and aspects of the higher self to protect us and to bring messages that are of the highest of the highest of the highest good for this person at the here and now part of their path. And once so it depends because I do virtual sessions and I do in-person sessions. And so they're a little different where in-person sessions I feel it a little more physically because I'm in there, I'm literally giving them a massage while they're receiving this message. And so it's just a more physical feeling of like, again, like I guess because I've been doing it so long, now I don't like need this vibration to step forward. I can see the green. I can see um but sometimes it doesn't come through like that. Now that I'm thinking about it, like a lot of times it is more of it's so many different ways. It's sound, sometimes it'll be like random words, and a lot of times either they'll be like like words that there is no English word for, and so I'm like I can't find a good one for this. I'm trying to like find, and so it's weird how it comes through because I can feel it coming down into me and like dropping down. And then as it's trying to express itself out of me, it's more of like pulling out of me. And sometimes it's like metaphors or experiences of mine they'll bring forward. They'll be like, remember the one time this chick said this and you felt like this, da, da, da. And then I'll tell that story just to help this person feel the feeling that they're trying to bring through. Do you remember this feeling? And so even like just the other day, there was a woman who like her son has passed, and he was like, "Do you smell me?" And I was like, "This is so random." It was just this one sentence, just, "Did you smell me? Did you smell me?" And I don't know what it ended up being, but she was giggling. So there was like something that she experienced, and he just the messages kept flowing. But it was like so so I don't want to say random, but it was just so straightforward. And then there's other times where it's just like it almost takes these building blocks to put together in order to get to the top. So like they'll be like, okay, well, this is the ultimate thing that we're getting to, but they won't, sometimes they'll like push me back if they don't want me to say this ending point yet, and then give a little more foundation and then give a little more foundation and give a little more, but until we get to that spot. Other times they'll like make me forget what it was until I build the foundation to get to that spot. And so when I first start, it's definitely like I usually get 1 to 3 main messages that we're going to talk about that are meant to come through. And then it usually ends with like I can feel if there's questions brewing in them, and then they'll be like, okay, now you can ask if she has questions or whatever. Um, so yeah, there's not really one way it ever comes through, and that's why it's just never boring because it's like sometimes it is like watching a movie or a scene play out where, I'll see somebody like move their hair out of the way, and it's so vivid and real and random that like I just say that. And then there's other times where they're like trying to get to this culmination of this movie, and I have to like do the music and cue the lights and say all this stuff to like get to the end point, because it's like there's some people who like they need to hear it hard and harsh, and that's just how they need to hear it, and that's how their team comes in, and that's like their personality or whatever. And usually don't know, like a lot of times I just don't even know these people, so I just don't know how. And I'm like, really, are we really saying it this way, guys? And they're like, no, she needs to hear it like this. And then there's other times where it's so gentle and gradual. I'm like, can we get to the point, y'all? Like, what is happening? So, yeah, it's just so different every single time. Every single time, even with clients that I've been seeing, I was just down the Bay Area and did channeling, and I've been seeing these clients for, 7 years, 7, 8 years. Yeah, because before I moved, so like 8 years. And it's still so different every time I see them, every single time. So yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
And I just wanted to say too that I noticed a difference when the like your virtual versus the in-person sessions. Like personally,
Yeah.
I think I was like one of the first virtual sessions that you did.
Yeah, probably.
And I remember feeling like it was like the I mean the messages are always like so like on point and like very potent, but something was like different about the messages. It was like they were more, maybe it was just like was like more, they were like more focused, or I don't know. But and
Yes,
then you speculate maybe it was because you're not like, doing a massage at the same time, so
yeah,
you're like just focusing on the
totally.
messages.
Yeah.
But and I remember you saying too about when you're doing the massage at the same time, which is like so magical. And I love the combination. And it's like so special that you have that. It feels like a really, like a new earth occupation. Like it's just your thing. Like nobody else is doing that. That's
Yeah,
like something that you didn't even like try to create it. It just kind of happened for you.
totally.
And you were called to do it, but it's like so unique and so special. But I remember you saying that the massages are like more more powerful when you're doing the channeling, because the spirits are helping you know where to massage and like what the body needs. Because there are some, like, you still do massages where you're just massaging and you don't do any
Oh
channeling?
yeah. Oh yeah. Totally.
And
Yeah.
that's just for the people who are like not on the level of wanting to know about that, or like.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, I would say. I've had some that have had the channeling done before, but it's just and it's been amazing too, but it's not the main thing they see me for. And I would also say like it's different. It's very, very different from being in person to doing a virtual. In virtual, I'm super focused. Things come in more clearly. Like it's just um I'm able to I guess have like a little more laser focus because if I'm doing massage, I'm like over here trying to find a knot here and release this, and but then at the same time like when they are in the driver's seat, a lot of times like I don't even remember what happened. I don't remember if we found anything in the body. So like I don't I always say I have like a almost like a my memory is in my hands. Like I can feel somebody's body and then feel them again 6 months later and be like, oh, there's new muscle here, or this is worse, or whatever. But when they're in the driver's seat, I get none of that. I don't remember. And so I'm almost like just hoping it's a good massage. I know it is because they're in the driver's seat, so it's probably better than mine would be. But there is always like a double focus. So if somebody and it's really hard to be like kind of going back and forth. So if we're halfway through a session or we're really deep into something, sometimes I'll notice, especially if it's like they're bringing up something that energetically is stuck in their left shoulder, which is receiving, then I'll be like, oh, that's crazy. We're in your left shoulder. So sometimes I'm be aware, but most of the time I'm like gone. Like, bruh, I don't know what just happened. Like, so yeah, I would say it's a very, very different. And again, even from session to session, sometimes I will work on the same person doing, I just did one and I did two. Usually when I do channeling, I've at least been a month or two before if not, 6 months to a year in between doing channeling sessions with these people. Um, but this time I had one where I did it with both times, and I think it was like within 2 weeks. And it was such different messages and energy, even in a 2 week span. It was just wild and blew my mind. And same thing with the body. It was like the first one I wasn't really paying attention to the body as much, and the second time there was a little less of potent channeling, but it was more focused on the body, and they were really bringing stuff up to the surface because it had been such a short time and things were improving. I could feel more of the muscle. So it's so fascinating. I'm such a little body nerd too. So like I nerd out on that kind of stuff. And then same thing with when they bring through messages I haven't heard before. I'm like, what? That's crazy. Like sometimes in the middle of the session, I'll be like, oh, did you just hear what they said? And they're like, you just came out of your mouth. And I'm like, no, I know, but like I didn't know that. It's crazy. I love it.
Well, I'm excited for my next session with you, as always.
Yeah.
And if people are hearing this and they want to work with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so my my business page on Facebook is Earthly Me, and it's Earthly Meee. And then on Instagram, it's Earthly Me um, underscore divine embodiment. And then I also I'm in the works of creating an app program right now where people can, it'll be kind of twofold. One part will be working on their body stuff. So really taking some time to do self-care for them. I'm trying to get it down to like 15-minute routines by the time that they're done with a couple week course, to just release and find the happy balance that they need in their body, the happy bliss that they need in their body. And then the second part will be just all of the paths to spiritual awakening. So like I really am focusing on getting multiple healers and of all modalities, because I have a lot of clients who in session, they're very new to all this spirituality stuff is what most of them call it, and they're looking for how do I start, where do I start? And it's just so broad. There's so many ways for people to start, and there's so many paths already made by the people who have gone before and paved these paths for them. So the second part will be just kind of helping them understand it, starting with the chakras, and then helping them understand all these different things that they can do, and then choosing a way for them to carry on with that practice. Or like meditation was mine. Some people astral travel, and there's paths with that. Some people hypnosis, and there's paths already created with that. And herbology. There's so many different paths. So I'm super excited, and that will be rolling out like by March at the latest. So I'm so excited for that.
Yeah.
And the other way is like, honestly, well, I don't want to give my phone number out, but like that's how most people get a hold of me for
Well, do you
sure.
have an email or something?
I do, yeah. So you can email me. It's the same thing, earthlyme1111, so 1111 at gmail.com. Yeah.
Mm, cool.
Thank you so much. That was so much fun. Get to talk about me for like an hour.
Totally. Well, before we go, I just really quick, I wanted to talk actually about your daughter
Oh
because
yeah.
I know she is a really huge part of your spiritual awakening
Oh my
and
gosh.
also just the reason that you're here on this planet. You're raising this special divine new earth mama. And I have gotten the pleasure of being in her presence many times, and she is a special, special little angel baby.
She is.
So tell me about her a little bit and you guys just, I see your special bond and you just have this, I don't know, it's just so special and magical. So talk about her a little bit.
Okay, I gladly. Okay, so I first want to start by saying that we recently dove into human design, probably within the last 2 years or so. And that has taken us on a whole new journey with her spiritual awakening, because she is a reflector, which is like the rarest type in human design. And I learned I'm a manifesting generator. I'm like a go-getter, get shit done. And she's more of this like chill. So as from the get, we've had such a beautiful relationship, even as far she's had health issues, and I'm a single mom, so just kind of doing it on my own and helping her to heal her wounds as I'm learning to heal my own and help others heal theirs. She's been a huge I'm like gonna get emotional. Just um I don't want to say stepping stone, like just the she's my everything. She's my best friend. Like she is my teacher. She is for sure the most amazing teacher. And she shines her light so bright to others. We started homeschooling about 5 years ago, because her health issues, and just within the last year and a half, 2 years, we found out she's a reflector, and it has just made everything so clear. Like it's not that she's sick; it's that when she's around others who have this stuff inside of them, she's reflecting it to them. And so we are, I've taught her for years how to be aware of her energetic boundaries, and like I said, my my awakening really started deeply with that first month of her being live and our whole experience with her birth. Um, and so, she's been here right alongside me every step of the journey. And I've been able to help her through her journey. And it's just so beautiful, because I'm a single mom, I take her with me everywhere, including women's moon circles. And so she, grits and bears through it, but then she'll be the first to grab that talking stick and talk all about all the things that she's going through too. So, and I think people just have mad respect for that because I don't sugarcoat anything with her. I'm 1,000% real, and I expect her to be too. And so I think, it's hard for a lot of people. And she, her childhood has been a little different, just not having a second parent, and or even just having like our family around. She's grown and she's wise beyond her years, and people have always said that about her. Like, and I think it's because, I talk the way I do. Like, I have grown conversations with her, like, about spirituality. I let her know, what I'm learning along my path, so hoping that it will help her along hers. And so, it's profound to watch a child walk in those steps with me, and then watch her reflect that to people. Like, she says some crazy stuff to my mom. My mom will be like talking negative, and she'll be like, you're just creating that reality for yourself. And it's just wild. I love it. I love it, but I think it's also shocking for people to see, just a child, and now she's 11 and less of a child, and just watching her step into young ladyhood and with these gifts. She's intuitive and she's aware of energy, very aware. She has to be. And I'm so glad that we've learned this reflector thing at such a young age. She, it's so interesting. She wants to be everything and do everything and just touch everything and sample everything. And even those things, trigger me into healing. And then I'm like teaching her what I'm healing because of her triggering me into the healing. And so I just could not have asked for a more aligned soul. I tell her every day that I'm so grateful that she chose me. She's such a beautiful, sweet light, and um I'm excited to see the big things that she'll do in this world. And same with your baby. Like, just, I never energetically met a baby until you and this other woman at that time. And I will never forget that feeling because it was so high frequency. I remember I couldn't even, like, I was just like, whoa, slow down, hold on. So I'm super excited. Same with your little guy, and you know, what he brings to the world, and all of the new babies, especially this year. For some reason, I keep getting some big messages about the babies that are coming in this starting this year. I don't know, I don't want to call it a new wave, but there's something about this new generation. I'm super excited about. But yeah, that's a little bit about my baby.
Yes, well, I'm glad that you mentioned my baby too at the end there because she was really instrumental in him coming through, I think. Actually, I think that
Mm.
I mean, she might have even intuitively picked up on a baby in my field when I first started taking care of
Mm.
her because
Oh my
uh,
gosh, that's
I
right.
know she loves babies and um I think he was with me for a while. I had actually been, I realized after he was born that I had been seeing hearts everywhere. I would always see, I don't
Mm.
know if you ever remember seeing my heart pictures, but I would post them on social media
Oh
and
my
I
gosh.
hashtag them hearts from heaven. And I
Oh,
realized they stopped when he was born. That was him.
oh
And I'm like,
wow.
I'm here, mom. I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. And
So
then I remember the grape thing, right?
yeah, 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 yeah. I tell people about that because that was so hilarious. I'll just say just briefly so people are like, what are you talking about? She when I think it was like the end of the day, you came to pick her up after I'd been taking care of her that day, and David was there home from work, and she um yeah, she goes, we're gonna do a little like baby ritual, and we're like, okay, so she brings 3 grapes. I remember it so vividly because it was so funny. She had a big grape and like a little bit smaller grape, and then like this tiny little teeny little baby grape. And she's like, okay, David, you get the mommy grape, and it was like the medium sized one. And then she gave me the big one. She said, this is the daddy grape. And then she said, you guys eat those. And then she said, then this little tiny one, you're gonna split this one. This is the baby grape. And then it was like shortly after that that we got pregnant.
Oh
And
my
it's so crazy. But when one of the first times that I think it might have been like the first time that I took care of her, she was like, we're driving in the car and she's like, so are you gonna have a baby? And I'm like, well, yes, I do actually really want to be a mom. I've been waiting, for years. And she's like, well, you'll have a baby when the universe is ready for you to have a baby or something like that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, she's so cute and just, like, so divine. She's like just an angel. So,
Oh, thank you. I know,
well,
that's so cute. What a fun story. I love that story about her and Alex. And then, yeah, just, yeah, when you say instrumental in bringing him through, yeah, like for me, she was the only kid that I've energetically linked to before Alex and that other sweet star child. So I'm so glad that we're in a space now where like we know that the kids that are come here present now are bringing online this new earth that we all been waiting for and working towards. And I'm so excited to just be on this journey with them, just to
yeah.
watch them shine and thrive. It's beautiful.
Yes, that was one of the things that you said in one of the sessions that I had when I was pregnant was Alex is here, is coming here to help build the new earth.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that I think that's why Madiana's here too, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have a special connection. So we got to get them together soon.
Yeah, totally.
We have so much more that we could talk about. I'm sure we could talk for hours. So we'll
For
have
sure.
another talk sometime. But
Yeah,
thank
definitely.
you so much for sharing your special divine story. I love hearing it every time. And
Aw,
yeah, it was so fun talking with you.
you too. Thank you so much for chatting with me. This was fun.
It's fun to talk about yourself, huh?
I know, that was cool. I don't, and this is good to, to get it out there and let people know that there's so many ways to this path, and that there's so many people who can help you get there, like lovingly, gently, unconditionally. So, thank you so much for doing this, for having your podcast and having me on and everyone else. I appreciate you.
Of course, just doing spirit's work.
Yes.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Speaking of Spirituality. If you'd like to connect with me personally or book a session for Quantum Soul Alchemy, you can find me on Instagram at Ascending with Amelia. Have a beautiful day.